Hello and welcome to today's shave. We are stepping back into the Nacet blade. 544 looks like today's use count for today's shave. I'm going to put it as usual in the timeless open comb stainless steel 68 gap razor, Taj handle, Semogue, Owner's Club, bore brush. This and most bore brushes really do work well with the Slurry Lather method. I really enjoy them. They hold a lot of water, and that's key, of course, with this method. So here's the use count for the Nacet, my little index card. And today's soap that we're going to try with the Slurry Lather method is the Klar Seifen. And I could be really mispronouncing that, but Seifen, I believe, is either shaving or soap or something like that. Klar is really the brand. It is a 1840. It's a brand that's been around for a while. I know I've communicated with people who said, hey, I remember that. My dad used to use that soap. I remember when I was a kid, I would see him, whip out use that product, and it's a hard soap. I wonder if it's giving you very much resolution there. It does shrink a little bit, and so sometimes it'll plop out. This particular one is, they use the same cap on all of them, and so you can't tell what scent it is unless you look at the bottom sticker. This is Klassic, and it's spelled Klassik, German, I guess, and there we go. You can see the dents on the aluminum tub here. And so this is not a great one for travel, even though it's quite compact. This is an expensive soap, and it was very disappointing when I first got my first tub of it because it was just so small compared to what you get. Compared to what you pay, it's quite disappointing because it is so small. However, it gives you a lot of uses per ounce of soap. You get a lot of uses. And so even if you were to buy this full retail price, I bought this used, so I saved some money. It was still expensive compared to other used soaps. However, I think you're going to get so many uses out of it that even if you pay full retail, you're still going to get, it's still going to calculate out to an inexpensive budget soap by the time you use it and enjoy the savings of so many uses before you finally run out. It is a hard soap. It's a it's a vegan soap. First couple of ingredients: potassium palmate, sodium palmate, potassium stearate, potassium palmcrenolate, sodium stearate. So it does have a little bit of glycerin in there. This is the Classic, so it's just kind of a generic, nice scent. I enjoy it. It's not super flowery at all, just kind of a generic cologne, good smelling type scent. And the brush has had a chance to soak for maybe 10 minutes now. I have rinsed my face. I've gotten it a little bit wet to prepare. So let's slurry lather this thing and see what happens. We're going to take the brush. As you can see, it's got tons of water in there. Shake just a bit of it out. This one doesn't have too many places for the water to go, so you don't really have to worry about the brush sloshing around in a bunch of water in this particular tin. 60-second load is what I did on the tobacco puck yesterday, and 60 swirl load. And today we probably won't need to do that, but it hasn't been used in years, and it is a hard, fully dry puck. So I'm just going to kind of keep an eye on it. And I'm going to take my catch bowl here and put it underneath so I can, if we have a lot of suds that drip, I won't have to worry about that going to waste. And here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. As you can see, it's a very dry kind of lather here, early lather. The froth is because of the way there's nowhere for the water to stay. That's kind of what we have to get used to. There, a little bit of the water dripped down into the bowl here. The knot of the brush should have some water. Well, I probably put about 8 dents in that, soaked in right there. So slippery. Let me go grab that. Yep, sure enough. Look right there. Big old nasty dent. Not fun. Just trying to hold things up in front of the camera for you. Just it has that effect sometimes of me dropping things. I'm going to take kind of the little soap that was on my hands and just kind of put it on my face there. Now that my hands are clean, I'm going to rinse the tub off. It doesn't give you a really luxurious creamy lather. That's not what this one's about. It's a vegan soap, and it's not a fantastic vegan soap in terms of performance. It's not like, you know, Southern Witchcrafts or something like that. But it gives you, maybe it's along the lines of Prix de Provence, where it's not crazy performance, but it's a great price for what you get, and you do get something slick to do the job. Okay, so I'm gonna kind of dip the brush in some of the suds, and let's just see what happens here. Yeah, not a lot of water in the brush, and that's a very interesting point with the slurry method. If you have a container that, you know, doesn't let you, and we're just gonna leave it like that. If your container doesn't let you keep water in the brush, if the water keeps flicking out when you're around the edges of the container because it is a small type container, then, you know, that might affect your slurry lather performance. But as long as it gets the job done by the end. Oh yeah, hey, I need to show you guys the blade and put it in the razor. That's kind of a prerequisite to shaving, isn't it? So this is my Nacet. I think when I get to 550, I'm going to send it off to my friend to get it analyzed, to have him with his microscope look at the edge and see what's going on. The N is up here in etched N, and then an etched number 1 right there. And in case some of you have forgotten, I have that N1, the markings that I've put on this blade, I have always pointed toward the handle. And so in essence, I haven't flipped this blade over. So I've shaved 544 times with this blade on one side. And so those people who religiously flip sides to your blade, I think we can kind of say it doesn't really matter, does it? With the one exception of I had not used the blade for a while. I came back to it and I forgot what I was doing. And on one time I shaved with it on the opposite side. And it was like a new blade. So obviously the blade is getting worn down in a certain way. Who knows? Maybe that's the secret to such a long blade life, is actually not flipping it. I don't know. Now, right now, you might be wondering, as a matter of fact, somebody asked me this question just the other day on a video of the Nacet. This is a 1-day growth, just 24 hours of growth. I'm not getting any tugging at all. Very comfortable. Now it doesn't feel like it's being super effective. You know, I can still feel like stubble on my face. Normally one pass of a younger blade and you've got pretty much 95% of your stubble gone. Well, that's not the way this blade works. Okay, so we'll splash of water now on my face. Kind of reinvigorate the the bit of soap that might still be on my face. And the way this brush feels right now, I think I'm going to have to add some water. So, because it just wasn't able to hold on to all that water because of the way it moved on the top of the soap tub and how it flicked, you know. So I'm just going to dip the tips in a little bit of water. So but this is all good data, you know. What do you have to do with the slurry method when this happens? And there we go. Now we've got, again, we're focused just on suds, you know, little wet, super wet suds, and it's going to be slick. So now the cross grain is definitely more effective than the with the grain with this particular blade. Also using short strokes like you see me doing. Kind of mandatory. Now I might be interested in trying the slurry with this soap again with a badger brush to see if the way it holds water a little bit differently than the boar, because the boar's not as dense. And so maybe it will end up holding more water after that load process goes through, you know? That's 2 passes down. A little splash of water now on my face. Yep, feels very slick. Usually with this blade, I end up doing about 5 passes, 4 passes, something like that. Now look here, we definitely have the slurry go on, and that is very wet. So I wonder if, you know, we didn't get as much soap loaded on the brush because of the fact that it was just kind of on top of it and it didn't really get to sink into the, you know, container, that kind of thing. The brush in its really wet state didn't have very much time to slide around on the top of the soap because the water just didn't stay on the top of the soap because of the height of the container, that kind of thing. And so that's going to affect things. Another cross grain pass here for number 3. Less resistance now because, you know, we're starting to get a lot of the stubble cut. And yes, the younger blade, on the 3rd pass, you're basically just doing touch-ups. But this isn't really about, am I advocating that people take a blade over 500 uses, you know, to save money on the budget or something like that. I guess it's possible some people might be that poor. But this is, at this point, it's really more about some shavers, you know, might be that poor. Obviously, there's plenty of poor people out there in the world. But at this point, it's kind of scientific. You know, how many blades, how many shaves can I get off of this one blade? Passable, reasonable shaves. And there we go. This soap is not giving me the kind of slickness that I've gotten with most other soaps. And I think, and so what I think I'll do is, I've got some kind of wet tips here on the brush. Let's go back to soap and just pick up a little bit more soap. I'm gonna take some of the egg and then kind of paint that little bit on. Almost like starting the slurry over, and that's one of the reasons I like this method, is if you mess up with a kind of a normal face lathering routine where you have to build up the whole cream like you did on the first pass, if you have to do it all over again, then you've kind of doubled the length of your shave, right? Whereas with the slurry, just a quick swipe around on the soap and you're able to put with a wet brush, and you're able to put slurry on your face right away. I'm not taking anything to maturity. Fourth pass now, I think. Comfortable, not tugging. I don't go against the grain. How does this feel in terms of slickness? Yeah, that's good. I think the slurry method does really well with a lot of the vegan soaps that may not really give you a luxurious lather. Indeed, they may be a challenge to kind of keep light and creamy while still being really hydrated. Like Prix de Provence is that way. A little tough challenge sometimes to make them ride that line. You can get them really wet, but then they kind of break. Or you can keep them creamy, but then to me they feel too dry and they don't perform as well. And that's kind of what you have to choose from. That's why I don't like MDC or Prix de Provence. Prix de Provence is a little bit better than MDC in that regard, but it's still very similar. And there we go. So that's 4 passes. How does my shave look visually? It's got to be a good shave for my standards. Otherwise, I have to stop using the blade. That's my personal standard with this. I mean, I could obviously keep shaving with a dull blade forever and have it not actually do any cutting, but that's not the point, right? It needs to give me reasonable shaves. So let's splash of water between passes. Yeah, and I could tell the difference right there with that little kind of mini rinse that I did versus the previous one. It's definitely, I could tell I had added more soap to the brush. Klar. So, I think in general, Klar is fine with the slurry method. Matter of fact, it might. Some soaps produce a very light, airy kind of suds, and you have to figure out the secret to getting it into a creamy, hydrated state. And Klar might be one of those. And so the slurry might, with its just extreme wetness, show off that kind of soap in a better light than usual. So I guess this is the 5th pass, and I think that'll be my last one. And there we go. And now full rinse. So I got this soap years ago, and Klar may have changed from this kind of packaging. It's nice that it's aluminum in a couple of senses. It's recyclable. It's not going to degrade on you in your closet after a long time. It's not bad for the environment in that sense. It can be reused as another container, and so they may have changed their packaging, but because it's been several years since this was purchased. But if it does become a favorite of yours, if you like the scent and the performance is good enough for you, and maybe the way you lather, it works really well for you. Maybe you like the fact that it's a vegan base. Sometimes that's important to people. If you do like it, something else you can do in case you don't like the aluminum for the fact that it's going to dent and that sort of thing. You can, with any hard soap like that, you can shred it with a cheese grater and then push those shreds down into any container you want. If you have a spare normal soap container or a mug or something like that, you can then press those shreds down. Actually, some mugs, that puck is going to just drop right in if you like the kind of vintage loading from a mug style. So those are some options for you in case that Klar type soap is a one that you like. You can even take a small ramekin kind of thing like this and press the shreds down in the bottom. Some people like to add a little bit of water to make everything squish, but I usually don't find I need to do that. after a few uses, it'll all just kind of meld together. So there we go. I did have to rejuvenate and add a little bit more soap by the end. And this bowl here kept my tips in some water, and that was probably good. So yeah, I might try Klar again with, like I said, the Badger to see if maybe there's a difference with the slurry method and how they hold the water. So we'll give that a shot. Let me wash out my bowl. And there we go. Rinsed out the brush really well, stropped it up and down on the towel over there, and now he's ready to dry. Sit there. And after the shave, what shall we use? I used Diamond the other day. Really enjoyed that. You know what? Let's do remote learning. This is a Mountain Dew, which is a citrus soda. If you guys are international or just don't drink sodas, it was by Summer Break, right? Because they did the remote learning set. The soap was going to smell like, it's supposed to smell like corn chips, Doritos. Yeah, I did not get as close of a shave as I usually do with the younger blade, but that's kind of to be expected. But visually, I think that it's a reasonable shave. All right. Oh yeah, I love the smell of that. Citrus, I mean, you can't go wrong. That's, while corn chips may not be a scent that's associated with wet shaving, citrus and the components of Mountain Dew sure are. So that's very nice. Good way to finish it up. That's it. No real revelations other than what I mentioned a couple times about how the brush kind of flicked the water out because of the nature of the soap container. And that's so that may be a consideration for the slurry method. But honestly, about anything you're going to do with a hard soap like this, whether you're face lathering or bowl lathering, you're going to end up with kind of overflow on the side, and so that's just going to happen all the time. Yeah, darn it, I dropped it and got that nasty dent. So now it's not going to sit flat on the counter. And then it's kind of funny because this is just guaranteed to overflow, right? You're guaranteed pretty much every time you load to have stuff coming down the sides. And so the label here, it's not a waterproof label. And so eventually you're just not going to be able to read the label. So that's almost seems like a poor design. Maybe the expectation is that you will move it to a different container. You know, maybe there's that. Of course, it could be so many years ago that they had to, that's just what they had back then. I don't know. All right. Well, that's a good shave. Thank you for joining me. This is Sugar Daddy Shaves, and we just did the 500, the 544th shave with the Nacet blade. Take care now.